Story time.
But it's okay. It's a small price to pay. Just some body aches and a little bit of nausea, but
I am still trying to arrange to get a vaccine, but
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, everybody who gets one makes everybody a bit safer. So, you know.
Yeah.
Evening, Ross.
Evening, Duncan. Hello, Jenny.
Hello.
Are you vaccine resting?
Huh?
Are you resting from vaccine?
Yes.
I know the feeling. I did my first one about 6 weeks ago. Yeah, I was a bit wiped out for a while. I had my vaccine in the kind of late afternoon or evening, and the next morning when I woke up, I felt like I'd been out for a really big night. Sadly, it was not true.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello.
A wild Katie appears.
Only I'm not appearing. I'm eating pizza.
Wild appear is the case, maybe. Yeah.
Ross, I'm a filthy hypocrite.
I forgive you.
It's very good of you.
I'm sure you were just trying to be nice.
I was being completely honest and nice. Hey, Bracken.
Hello.
Hello.
Better.
Yes, thank you.
Hey.
Woo. How's everyone doing?
I have pizza.
Shit.
What kind of pizza? This is important.
Sourdough pizza base with artichokes and roasted balsamic cherry tomatoes.
Ooh, fancy.
And mozzarella?
Obviously.
Oh.
I don't remember what it's called, but I remember a long time ago having a pizza that was like artichoke hearts and really thinly sliced lemon.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like rad as shit. Like, even had the peel still on. But anyway, hi, Frankie.
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hello.
Have you had
What's
another
wrong?
haircut, or are you just restraining?
Oh, I'm restraining. I have a clip. There's a clip situation happening.
Ah.
Hey, buddy. Hey, Bracken. Hey, Rory. Hey, Tara. Hi, Michael. Secret Tara and Secret Michael, but both on different devices. How exciting. And Secret Katie and Nick. I know you're there, you beautiful people.
You can have a Nick if you want.
I would love a Nick. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Duncan. Hi, Ross.
Hi.
How's everyone? There's a Nick. Oh, hello, Nicholas.
Hello,
Oh,
Mother.
I see his hand.
Oh, the fluff.
I feel like I'm doing it. I feel like I'm doing it.
Oh.
Hi,
It's very
Dina.
dignifying.
Hi, Alex. Oh.
Yeah.
So nice.
Acknowledge that Alan is here in my name.
Bina and Alan.
I'm
And
part of Alan.
Balin. Aina. Alina. Hi, Lisa.
Alan.
Alan.
Yeah.
That's nice. Everyone needs
Even
it.
a bit of my name that I basically never use.
Because you do. Family.
The Balin.
I mean, obviously we're Nickety,
Oh, that's cute.
That is cute.
Let's see.
Have we got a cooking, Lisa?
Brari? Rawkin?
Oh, Roken is better. It's like a sea monster.
Rawkin sounds like somebody in a band in the early 2000s that I would have been quite into. Rawkin.
I think we may have already established our power couple name years ago as like big king shit warlocks of fuck mountain.
Well, that's
passport.
I guess all other relationships are cancelled because nobody else can have a power couple name that badass. Hi, Michael. Hi,
Hey.
Lisa. Hi, Ash. Hi, Jonas. Hi. Jonathan, I like that shirt. It's like very, very suave. See, I can compliment things that aren't your beard. I'm not a one-trick pony. Yeah. Got all
It's
the
an
compliments.
excellent beard, though, right?
It's a really, for reals though. It's a really good beard. Hi, Asher. Hi, Lyric. Hey, Andrada. Oh my God, what a slew of excellent people all at once.
We have Andrada cosplaying as Bina.
We do. Lyric, your hair. Have you done something to it? Have you tell us about your hair, Lyric?
I mean, I actually did not wash it today, for one. I did, however, dye it yesterday, so thank you.
That is a really excellent teal.
Thank you.
Yet again, I have to switch off my night mode because it doesn't show me the colors how they move.
I mean, I'm a little bit jealous of that teal. Like, I almost want to reach out and steal it.
The trick is, don't let the blue entirely fade and then say, fuck it, I really want more green in this, and throw it on and see what happens.
Hell yeah.
Also,
Sounds like
the
an
green
excellent
is
strategy.
real.
Yep.
Okay. Wasn't that far off with my, I thought it was green. Ah, nice.
Hi,
Right.
Michael.
And switch night mode back on.
Very exciting.
Before we forget, can somebody, I mean, I know the book, but can somebody catch me up real quick how far you got yesterday?
We've just had the big quantum explanation. Sweeper has stolen Vimes out of Captain Tilden's office and been like, time be fucked, yo. Like, past here, future here, present here. Whoa, you've got to make sure the right future happens. And what?
It's all gone a bit quantum.
All gone a bit quantum.
Is it all,
Bloody
is it all timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly?
It is. It's all wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Okay, good.
Quantum is a much simpler word.
But way less fun.
Wibbly wobbly is much more fun to say.
Oh, what was the other really good word from yesterday's session?
Ooh.
Duplex.
I wasn't thinking that one, but yes.
Oodleplex.
Oodleplex, yes. Oodleplex.
Oodleplex. Oodleplex. That's an excellent word. Oodleplex. What is your favorite word?
Serendipity.
That's a great word.
I can't say it without starting to smile every damn time.
Serendipity. That's lovely. Don't you start that. Don't you start that. Martin and I have an ongoing bees versus wasps debate, which I feel like I must have aired here previously, and that he asserts that bees is the better word. Not the better ant, I mean, obviously bees the better creature, but he thinks that bees is a better word than wasps. And I think that wasps is a great word. Wasps.
Martin's right.
Clumsy.
Have you noticed, Frankie, what time it is?
Oh my god, yeah, I thought can you folks hear something? Can you Also, catch up crew, you can't see this, but Zach joined in the chat. My heart. Hi, babe. Hi, Malcolm. Okay.
In the chat.
Okay. That's very fucking cute. Points for cuteness. Right. Now, you lot. Are you, Malcolm? Are you sitting comfortably? Martin, are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Captain Tilden blinked. What happened there? He said. Where? Said Vimes, trying to fight down nausea. Time coming back had left him with a horrible sensation that he was really two people, and neither of them was feeling at all well. You blurred, man. Perhaps I'm a bit tired of this, said Vimes, pulling himself together. Listen, Captain, I am John Keel. I can prove it, okay? Ask me some questions. You've got my papers there, haven't you? They were stolen. Tilden hesitated for a moment. He was a man whose mind was ponderous enough to have momentum. It was quite hard for his thoughts to change direction. Who is commander of the Pseudopolis Watch, then? He said. Sheriff McElwheat, said Vimes. Aha! Wrong. Fallen at the very first fence, what? In fact, you fool, it's Sheriff Purley. Excuse me, sir, said Snouty nervously. Yes, what? It is McElwheat, sir. Purley died last week. Heard it in the pub. Fell in the river when drunk, said Vimes helpfully. That's what I heard, sir, said Snouty. Tilden looked furious. You could have known that. What? He said. It doesn't prove anything. Ask me something else then, said Vimes. Ask me what McElwheat said about me. I just hope I've got the answers right. Well? Said I was the best officer on his force and he was sorry to see me go, said Vimes. Said I was of good character. Said he wished he could pay me the $25 a month I was going to get here. I never offered you. No, you offered me $20, and now that I've seen the mess here, I'm not taking it. Vimes rejoiced. Tilden hadn't even learned how to control a conversation. If you pay Knock $20, he owes you $19 change. The man couldn't talk and chew gum at the same time. And look at this, will you? Vimes dumped his handcuffs on the desk. The gaze of Snouty and Tilden swung to them as if magnetic. Oh dear, thought Vimes, and stood up and lifted the crossbow out of Snouty's hands. It was all in the movement. If you moved with authority, you got a second or two extra. Authority was everything. He fired the bow at the floor, then handed it back. A kid could open these cuffs, and while Snouty here keeps a very clean jail, he's completely draws at being a guard, said Vimes. This place needs shaking up. He leaned forward, knuckles on the captain's desk, with his face a few inches from the trembling moustache and the milky eyes. $25 or I walk out that door, he said. It was probably a phrase never ever said before by any prisoner anywhere on the world. $25, murmured Tilden, hypnotized. And the rank will be Sergeant at Arms, said Vimes, not Sergeant. I'm not going to be given orders by the likes of Knock. Sergeant at Arms, said Tilden distantly, but Vimes saw the hint of approval. It was a good military-sounding title, and it was still on the books. In fact, it was a pretty ancient pre-coppering term, back in the days when a court employed a big man with a stick to drag miscreants in front of it. Vimes had always admired the simplicity of that arrangement. Well, Sheriff McElwheat certainly gave you a most glowing reference, said the captain, shuffling the papers. Very glowing. Things have been a little difficult since we lost Sergeant White, and I'll be paid my first month in advance, please. I need clothes and a decent meal and somewhere to sleep. Tilden cleared his throat. Many of the unmarried men stay in the barracks in Cheapside. Not me, said Vimes. I'll be lodging with Dr. Lorne in Twinkle Street. Well, Rosie Palm did suggest he had a spare room. The pox, Doctor, said Snouty. Yeah, I'm particular about the company I keep, said Vimes. It's also just around the corner. He took his hands off the desk, stood back and whipped off a salute of almost parodic efficiency, the sort that Tilden had always loved. I'll report for duty at 3 o'clock tomorrow, this afternoon, sir, he said. Thank you, sir. Tilden sat mesmerised. It was $25, sir, I believe, said Vimes, still maintaining the salute. He watched the captain get up and go to the old green safe in the corner. The man was careful not to let Vimes see him turn the dial, but Vimes was pretty certain he didn't need to. The safe had still been there when he made captain, and by then everyone knew the combination was 4478, and that no one seemed to know how to change it. The only things worth keeping in it had been the tea and sugar and anything you particularly wanted Nobby to read. Tilden came back with a small leather bag and slowly counted out the money, and was so cowed that he didn't ask Vimes to sign anything. Vimes took it, saluted again, and held out his other hand. Badge, sir, he said. Oh, yes, of course. The captain, entirely unnerved, fumbled in the top drawer of the desk and pulled out a dull copper shield. If he'd been that observant, he'd have noticed how hungrily Vimes's eyes watched it. The new sergeant at arms picked up his badge with care and saluted yet again. Oath, sir, he said. That thing? I believe I've got it written down somewhere. Vimes took a deep breath. This probably wasn't a good idea, but he was flying now. I, comma, square bracket, recruit's name, square bracket, comma, do solemnly swear by square bracket, recruit's deity of choice, square bracket, to uphold the laws and ordinances of the City of Ankh-Morpork, comma, serve the public trust, comma, and defend the subjects of his stroke her bracket, delete whichever is in appropriate majesty, bracket, name of reigning monarch, bracket, without fear, comma, favour, comma, or thought of personal safety, semicolon, to pursue evildoers and protect the innocent, comma, laying down my life, if necessary, in the cause of said duty, comma, so help me, bracket, aforesaid deity, bracket, full stop, God save the king, stroke queen, bracket, delete whichever is inappropriate, bracket, full stop. My word. Well done, said Tilden. You have come well prepared, Sergeant. And now it's the king's shilling, sir, said Vimes insistently, soaring on wings of audacity. What? I have to take the king's shilling, sir. Do we have a... In the bottom drawer, sir, said Snouty helpfully, on the bit of string. Oh, yes, said Tilden, beaming. It's been a long time since we used that. What? Is it? Said Vimes. After some rummaging, Tilden produced the coin. It was a genuine old shilling, probably worth $50 now just for its silver, and thus, coppers being coppers, it had always been dropped into the new copper's hand and then tugged away before it was pinched. Vimes had taken the oath once. He wondered if taking it twice cancelled it out. But it needed to be done, and you had to at least touch the shilling. He felt the weight in his palm and took a small, shameful pleasure in closing his fingers on it before the captain had time to drag it back. Then, point made, he released the grip. With a final salute, he turned and tapped Snouty on the shoulder. With the captain's permission, I'd like a chat with you outside, please. And Vimes strode out. Snouty looked at Tilden, who was still sitting as though hypnotised, the shilling dangling from his fist. The captain managed to say, Good man, that. Very good. Got backbone. I'll just go and see what he wants, sir, said Snouty, and scuttled out. He had reached the end of the corridor when a hand came out of the shadows and pulled him close. You're a useful man to know, Snouty, Vimes hissed. I can tell. Yes, sir, said Snouty, held half on tiptoe. You've got your ear to the ground, eh? Yes, sir. There's someone in every nick who knows all that's going on and can lay his hands on just about anything, Snouty, and I think you are that man. Yes, sir. Then listen here, said Vimes. Size 8 boots, size 7 1/4 helmet, a good leather cape. The boots should be a good make, but second hand. Got that? Second hand? Yes. Sole's pretty nearly worn through. Sole's pretty nearly worn through. Check, said Snouty. Breastplate not to have any rust on it, but a few dents will be okay. A good sword, Snouty, and believe me, I know a good sword when I hold one. As for all the rest of the stuff, well, I know a man like you can get hold of the very best and have it delivered to Dr. Lawn's place in Twinkle Street by 10 this morning. And there'll be something in it for you, Snouty. What'll that be, sir? Said Snouty, who was finding the grip uncomfortable. My undying friendship, Snouty, said Vimes, which is going to be an extremely rare coin in these parts, let me tell you. Right you are, Sarge, said Snouty. Oh, will you be wanting a bell, sir? A bell? For ringing and shouting, all's well with Sarge. Vimes considered this. A bell. Well, every copper still got a bell. It was down there in the regulations, but Vimes had banned its use on anything but ceremonial occasions. No bell for me, Snouty, said Vimes. Do you think things are well? Snouty swallowed. Could go either way, Sarge, he managed. Good man. See you this afternoon. There was a glow of dawn in the sky when Vimes strode out, but the city was still a pattern of shadows. In his pocket was the reassuring heaviness of the badge, and in his mind the huge, huge freedom of the oath. Ruler after ruler had failed to notice what a devious oath it was. He walked as steadily as he could down to Twinkle Street. A couple of watchmen tried to waylay him, but he showed them the badge, and more importantly, he had the voice now. It had come back to him. It was night, and he was walking the streets, and he owned the damn streets, and somehow that came out in the way he spoke. They'd hurried off. He wasn't sure they'd believed him, but at least they'd pretended to. The voice had told them he could be the kind of trouble they weren't paid enough to deal with. At one point, he had to step aside as a very thin horse dragged a huge and familiar four-wheeled wagon over the cobbles. Frightened faces looked out at him from between the wide metal strips that covered most of it, and then it disappeared into the gloom. Curfew was claiming its nightly harvest. These were not good times. Everyone knew Lord Winder was insane. And then some kid who was equally mad had tried to knock him off, and would have done too if the man hadn't moved at the wrong time. His lordship had taken the arrow in the arm, and they said, they being the nameless people of the kind that everyone met in the pub, that the wound had poisoned him and made him worse. He suspected everyone and everything. He saw dark assassins in every corner. The rumour was that he woke up sweating every night because they even got into his dreams. And he saw plots and spies everywhere throughout his waking hours, and had men root them out. And the thing about rooting out plots and spies everywhere is that even if there are no real plots to begin with, there are plots and spies galore very soon. At least the Night Watch didn't have to do much of the actual rooting. They just arrested the pieces. It was the special office in Cable Street that was the long hand of his lordship's paranoia. The particulars, they were officially, but as far as Vimes could remember, they'd revelled in their nickname of the Unmentionables. They were the ones that listened in every shadow and watched at every window. That was how it seemed, anyway. They were certainly the ones who knocked on doors in the middle of the night. Vimes stopped in the dark. The cheap clothes were soaked through. The boots were flooded. Rain was trickling off his chin, and he was a long, long way from home. Yet, in a treacherous kind of way, this was home. He'd spent most of his days working nights. Walking through the wet streets of a sleeping city was his life. The nature of the night changed, but the nature of the beast remained the same. He reached into the ragged pocket and touched the badge again. In the darkness, where lamps were few and far between, Vimes knocked on a door. A light was burning in one of the lower windows, so Lorne was presumably still awake. After a while, a very small panel slid back, and he heard a voice say, "Oh, it's you." There was a pause, followed by the sound of bolts being released. The doctor opened the door. In one hand, he held a very long syringe. Vimes found his gaze inexorably drawn to it. A bead of something purple dripped off the end and splashed onto the floor. "We were to death," he said. "This?" Lorne looked at the instrument as if unaware that he'd been holding it. "Oh, just sorting out a little problem for someone. Patients turn up at all hours." "I'll bet they do." Rosie said you had a spare room," said Vimes. "I can pay," he added quickly. "I've got a job." $5 a month? I won't be needing it for long. Upstairs on the left, said Lorne, nodding. We can talk about it in the morning. I'm not a criminal madman, said Vimes. He wondered why he said it, and then wondered who he was trying to reassure. Never mind, you'll soon fit in, said Lorne. There was a whimper from the door leading to the surgery. The bed's not aired, but I doubt that you'll care, he said. And now, if you'll excuse me. It was aired, and Vimes didn't care. He didn't even remember getting into it. He woke up once, in panic, and heard the sound of the big black wagon rattling down the street. And then it just, quite seamlessly, became part of the nightmare. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Vimes found a cold cup of tea by his bed and a pile of clothes and armour on the floor outside the door. He drank the tea while he inspected the pile. He'd read Snouty right. The man survived because he was a weathercock and kept an eye on which way the wind was blowing. And right now, the wind was blowing due Vimes. He'd even included fresh socks and drawers, which hadn't been in the specification. It was a thoughtful touch. He probably hadn't been paid for, of course. They had been obtained. This was the old night watch. But, glory be, the breathy little crawler had scrounged something else too. The 3 stripes for a sergeant had a little gold crown above them. Vimes instinctively disliked crowns, but this was one he was prepared to treasure. He went downstairs, doing up his belt, and bumped into Lorne coming out of his surgery, wiping his hands on a cloth. The doctor smiled absently, then focused on the uniform. The smile did not so much fade as drain. Shocked, said Vimes. Surprised, said the doctor. Rosie won't be, I expect. I don't do anything illegal, you know. Then you've got nothing to fear, said Vimes. Really? That proves you're not from round here, said Lorne. Want some breakfast? There's kidneys. This time it was Vimes's smile that drained. Lamb, the doctor added. In the tiny kitchen, he prized the lid off a tall stone jar and pulled out a can. Vapour poured off it. Ice, he said. Get it from over the road. Keeps food fresh. Vimes's brow wrinkled. Over the road? You mean the mortuary? Don't worry, it's not being used, said Lorne, putting a pan on the stove. Mr. Garnish drops off a lump a few times a week, in payment for being cured of a rather similar medical condition. But mostly you work for the ladies of, shall we say, negotiable affection, said Vimes. Lorne gave him a sharp look to see if he was joking, but Vimes's expression hadn't changed. Not just them, he said. There are others. People who come by the back door, said Vimes, looking around the little room. People who, for one reason or another, don't want to go to the better-known doctors. Or can't afford them, said Lorne. People who turn up with no identity. And you had a point? John? No, just asking, said Vimes, cursing himself for walking right into it. I just wondered where you trained. Why? The kind of people who come in by the back door are the kind of people who want results, I imagine. Ha. Well, I trained in Clatch. They have some novel ideas about medicine over there. They think it's a good idea to get patients better, for one thing. He turned over the kidneys with a fork. Frankly, Sergeant, I'm pretty much like you. We do what needs doing. We work in unpopular areas, and I suspect we both draw the line somewhere. I'm no butcher. Rosie says you aren't. But you do the job that's in front of you, or people die. I'll remember that, said Vimes. And when all's said and done, said Lorne, there are worse things to do in the world than take the pulse of women. After breakfast, Sergeant-at-Arms John Keel stepped out into the first day of the rest of his life. He stood still for a moment, shut his eyes, and swiveled both feet like a man trying to stub out 2 cigarettes at once. A slow, broad smile spread across his face. Snouty had found just the right kind of boots. Willikins and Sybil between them conspired to prevent him wearing old, well-worn boots those days, and stole them away in the night to have the soles repaired. It was good to feel the streets with dry feet again. And after a lifetime of walking them, he did feel the streets. There were the cobblestones, cat heads, troll heads, loaves, short and long sets, rounders, moorpork sixes, and the 87 types of paving brick, and the 14 types of stone slab and the 12 types of stone never intended for street slabs, which had got used anyway, and had their own patterns of wear, and the rubbles and the gravels and the repairs, and the 13 different types of cellar cover and 20 types of drain lid. He bounced a little, like a man testing the hardness of something. Elm Street, he said. He bounced again. Junction with Twinkle. Yeah. He was back. It wasn't many steps to Treacle Mine Road, and as he turned towards the watch house, a flash of colour caught his eye. And there it was, overhanging a garden wall. Lilac was common in the city. It was vigorous and hard to kill, and had to be. The flower buds were noticeably swelling. He stood and stared, as a man might stare at an old battlefield. They rise hands up, hands up, hands up. How did it go now? Think of things happening one after the other. Don't assume that you know what's going to happen, because it might not. Be yourself. And because he was himself, he made a few little purchases in little shops in dark alleys and went to work. The Treacle Mine Road night watch house was generally deserted around midday, but Vimes knew that Snouty, at least, would be there. He was a persistent floater, just like Nobby and Colon and Carrot, and when you got down to it, Vimes as well. Being on duty was their default state of being. They hung around the watch house even when off duty, because that's where their lives took place. Being a copper wasn't something you left hanging by the door when you went home. But I promise I'll learn how, thought Vimes. When I get back, it'll all be different. He went around the back and let himself in by the stable entrance. It wasn't even locked. Black mark right there, lads. The iron bulk of the hurry-up wagon stood empty on the cobbles. Behind it was what they called, now, the stables. In fact, the stables were only the bottom floor of what would have been part of Ankh-Morpork's industrial heritage, if anyone had ever thought of it like that. In practice, they thought of it as junk that was too heavy to cart away. It was part of the winding gear from a treacle mine, long since abandoned. One of the original lifting buckets was still up there, glued to the floor by its last load of the heavy, sticky, unrefined treacle, which, once set, was tougher than cement and more waterproof than tar. Vimes remembered as a kid begging chippings of pig treacle off the miners. One lump of that, oozing the sweetness of prehistoric sugarcane, could keep a boy's mouth happily shut for a week. Footnote. In the same way that ancient forests become coal, ancient swathes of natural sugarcane can become, under the pressure of millennia, what in various parts of the disc is known as hokey pokey, pig treacle, or rock molasses. But much boiling and purification was necessary to create the thick golden syrup that was the city dwellers' honey. And these days, Ankh-Morpork's supplies came from the more accessible toffee beds near Quirm. Inside the treacle-roofed stable level, chewing a bit of bad hay, was the horse. Vimes knew it was a horse because it checked out as one. 4 hooves, tail, head with mane, seedy brown coat. Considered from another angle, it was half a ton of bones held together with horsehair. He patted it gingerly. As one of nature's pedestrians, he'd never been at home around horses. He unhooked a greasy clipboard from a nail nearby and flicked through its pages. Then he had another look around the yard. Tilden never did that. He looked at the pigsty in the corner where Nock kept his pig, and then at the chicken run and the pigeon loft and the badly made rabbit hutches, and he did a few calculations. The old watch house. It was all there, just like the day he first arrived. It had been 2 houses once, and one of them had been the treacle mine office. Everywhere in the city had been something else once. And so the place was a maze of blocked-in doorways and ancient windows and poky rooms. He wandered around like a man in a museum. See the old helmet on a stick for archery practice. See Sergeant Knock's broken-springed armchair where he used to sit out on sunny afternoons. And inside, the smell. Floor wax, stale sweat, armour polish, unwashed clothes, ink, a hint of fried fish, and always, here, a taint of treacle. The night watch. He was back. When the first members of the night watch came in, they found a man perfectly at ease, leaning back in a chair with his feet on the desk and leafing through paperwork. The man had sergeant stripes and an air of an unsprung trap. He was also giving absolutely no attention to the newcomers. He particularly paid no heed to one gangly lance constable who was still new enough to have tried to put a shine on his breastplate. They fanned out among the desks with muttered conversations. Vimes knew them in his soul. They were in the night watch because they were too scruffy, ugly, incompetent, awkwardly shaped, or bloody-minded for the day watch. They were honest, in that special policeman sense of the word. That is, they didn't steal things too heavy to carry, and they had the morale of damp gingerbread. He'd wondered last night about giving them some kind of pep talk by way of introduction, and decided against it. They might be very bad at it, but they were coppers, and coppers did not respond well to the happy families approach. Hello, chaps. Call me Christopher. My door is always open. I'm sure if we all pull together, we shall get along splendidly like one big happy family. I've seen too many families to fall for that rubbish. Someone cleared their throat with malice aforethought. Vimes glanced up and into the face of Sergeant Knocker Knock, and for a fraction of a second had to suppress the urge to salute. Then he remembered what Knock was. Well, he said. That's my desk you're sitting at, Sergeant, said Knock. Vimes sighed and pointed to the little crown on his sleeve. See this, Sergeant, he said. It's what they used to call the hat of authority. Knock's little weaselly eyes focused on the crown. And then they went back to Vimes's face and widened in the shock of recognition. Bloody hell, breathed Knock. That's bloody hell, sir, said Vimes. But Sarge will do, most of the time. And this is your mob, is it? Oh dear. Well, let's make a start. He swung his feet off the desk and stood up. I've been looking at the feed bills for Marilyn, he said. Interesting reading, lads. According to my rough calculations, a horse eating that much ought to be approximately spherical. Instead, she's so thin that with 2 sticks and some sheet music, I could give you a tune. Vimes put the papers down. Don't think I don't know where the corn goes. I bet I know who's got the chickens and rabbits and pigeons, he said, and the pig. I bet the captain thinks they get fat on leftovers. Yeah, but a voice began. Vimes's hand slammed on the desk. You lot even starve the damn horse, he said. That stops right now. So will a lot of other things. I know how it works, see? Mumping free beer and a donut, well, that's part of being a copper. And who knows, there might even be a few greasy spoons in this town so happy to see a copper that they will spontaneously offer him a free nosh. Stranger things have happened. But nicking the oats from Marilyn, that stops now. And another thing, says here that last night the hurry-up wagon had 8 passengers, he said. 2 of them I know about because one of them must have been me and I met the other man. The cells are empty this morning. What happened to the other 6? Sergeant Knock? The sergeant licked his lips nervously. Dropped him off in Cable Street for questioning, of course, he said, as per instructions. Did you get a receipt? For what? Your men hauled in 6 people who were staying out late and you handed them over to the unmentionables, said Vimes, with the calm that comes before a storm. Did they sign for them? Do you even know their names? Orders is just to hand them over, said Knock, trying a little defiance. Hand them over and come away. Vimes filed that for future reference and said, now, I didn't get taken there because we had a bit of a misunderstanding. And as you can see, it was a bigger misunderstanding than you thought, because I'm not down in the tanty counting cockroaches, Knock. No, indeed. He took a few steps forward. I am standing in front of you, Knock. Isn't that what I'm doing? Yes, Sarge, Knock muttered, pale with fear and fury. Yes, Sarge, said Vimes. But there was another man in the cells and he's gone too. All I want to know is how much and who to. I don't want any looks of cherubic innocence. I don't want any, don't know what you're talking about, sir. I just want to know how much and who to. A cloud of red, resentful solidarity settled over the faces in front of him. But he didn't need telling. He could remember. Corporal Quirk always had a private income from bribes. He'd been like Nobby Nobbs without the latter's amiable incompetence. An efficient Nobby, in fact, and you could throw into the mix bullying and brown-nosing and a delight in small evils. Vimes's gaze fell on Quirk and stayed there. I know you were on the wagon last night, Corporal, he said. You and Lance Constable Vimes, it says here. Not worth worrying anyone if they look a decent sort, Quirk said. And he'd said, how can we tell her a decent sort, Corp? Well, see how much they can afford. You mean we let them go if they're rich? Wave the world, lads, wave the world. No reason why we shouldn't get our share, eh? Did you see his money bag? $5 should do it. 4 for me and 1 for you, 'cause you're learning. That's nearly 3 days' pay. It'll cheer up your old mum no end. And where's the loser? But supposing he's nipped the money, Corp? Suppose the moon was made of cheese. Would you like a slice? I think it was $5, Corporal, said Vimes, and watched the man's lizard eyes flash towards the young Lance Constable. No, the man in the cell talked, lied Vimes. Told me I was an idiot not to buy my way out. So, Mr. Quirk, it's like this. They're crying out for good men in the day watch, but if you don't stand too close to the light, you might pass. Get along there right now. Everybody does it, Quirk burst out. It's perks. Everybody, said Vimes. He looked around at the squad. Anyone else here take bribes? His glare ran from face to face, causing most of the squad to do an immediate impression of the floorboard and ceiling inspector's synchronized observation team. Only 3 members met his gaze. There was Lance Corporal Colon, who could be a little slow. There was a certain Lance Constable, whose face was a mask of terror. And there was a dark-haired, round-faced constable who seemed to be puzzled, as if he was trying to remember something, but who nevertheless stared back with the firm, steady gaze of the true liar. Apparently not, said Vimes. Quirk's finger shot out and vibrated in the direction of the young Sam Vimes. He shared it! He shared it, he said. You ask him. Vimes felt the shock run round the squad. Quirk had just committed suicide. You hung together against officers, fair enough, but when the jig was up, you did not drop someone in the khaki. They'd laugh at the idea of a watchman's honour, but it did exist in a blackened, twisty way. You did not drop your mates in the khaki. And especially, you did not do it to a wet behind the ears rookie who wouldn't know any better. Vimes turned, for the first time, to the young man he'd been avoiding. Gods, was I ever that skinny, he thought. Did I ever have that much Adam's apple? Did I really try to polish rust? Eyes were almost in the back of his head, only the whites showing. Lance Constable Vimes, isn't it? He said quietly. Yes, sir, said Sam hoarsely. At ease, Lance Constable. Did you, in fact, take a share of the bribe? Yes, sir. $1, sir. At the instigation of Corporal Quirk? Sir? Did he offer it to you? Vimes translated. Vimes watched his own agony. You did not drop someone in the khaki. All right, he said at last. I'll talk to you later on. Oh, you still here, Quirk? If you want to complain to the captain, that's fine by me. But if you don't get your stuff out of your locker in 10 minutes, I'll damn well charge you rent. Quirk looked around for immoral support and found none. He'd gone too far. Besides, the watch could see a storm of khaki when it was right overhead and were in no mood to stick their necks out for something like Quirk. I will, he said. I will complain to the captain. You'll see. You'll see. I've got 4 years good conduct, I have. No, that was 4 years not found out, said Vimes. Clear off. When Quirk's footsteps had died away, Vimes glared at the squad. Good afternoon, lads. My name's John Keel, he said. We bloody well better get along fine. Now shine up, captain's inspection in 2 minutes. Off you go. Sergeant Knock, a word, please. The men dispersed hurriedly. Knock stepped forward, not quite managing to conceal his nervousness. After all, his immediate superior now was a man who, last night, he had kicked in the nadgers. People could hold a grudge about a thing like that. And he'd had time to think. I'd just like to say, sir, about last night, he began. I'm not bothered about last night, said Vimes. You're not? Would you recommend Fred Colon for corporal? I'd value your judgment. You would? Certainly. He looks a solid lad. He is. I mean, yes, he is. Very thorough, said Knock, relief rising off him like steam. Doesn't rush into things. Wants to join one of the regiments. Well, we'll give him a try while we've still got him. That means we'll need another Lance Corporal. Who was that lad next to Colon? Coates, sir. Ned Coates. Bright lad, sometimes thinks he knows better, but we were all like that, eh? Vimes nodded. His expression completely failed to give away the fact that, as far as he was concerned, there were things clinging to the underside of high branches that knew better than Sergeant Knock. A taste of responsibility might do him some good then, he said. Knock nodded, because at that point he would have agreed to absolutely anything. And his body language was saying, we're all sergeants together, right? We're talking about sergeanty things like sergeants do. We're not bothered about anyone being kicked in the nadgers, eh? Not us, because we're sergeants. His eyes widened, and he saluted as Tilden entered the office. There was some half-hearted saluting among the squad, too. The captain acknowledged them stiffly, then looked nervously at Vimes. Ah, Sergeant, he said. Settling in? Yes, sir. No problems. Well done. Carry on. When the man had disappeared up the creaking stairs, Vimes turned back to Knock. Sergeant, we don't hand over prisoners without a receipt. Understand? Never. What happens to them afterwards? Do you know? They get questioned, said Knock. We takes them up there for questioning. What kind of questions? How long it takes 2 men to dig half a hole? What? Knock's brow knitted. From now on, someone at Cable Street signs for prisoners or we bring them right back here, said Vimes. It's bloody elementary, Sergeant. You hand them over, you get a docket. Don't you do that down at the Tandy? Well, yeah, obviously, but, well, Cable Street, I mean, you don't know what it's like here. I can see that, but with the unmentionables around at Cable Street, it's best not to. Listen, I'm not telling you to kick the door down and shout, "Put down those thumb screws," said Vimes. I'm telling you, we keep track of prisoners. When you arrest a man, you sign him over to Snouty, don't you? When he leaves, Snouty or the orderly man signs him out, doesn't he? It's basic custody discipline, man. So if you hand a prisoner over to Cable Street, someone there gives you a signature. Understand? No one just disappears. Knock's face showed a man contemplating an immediate future that contained fewer opportunities for personal gain and a greatly raised risk of being shouted at. And just to make sure everyone understands, I'll ride the wagon tonight, said Vimes. But first I'll take that lad Vimes out for a stroll and shake him up a bit. He could do with it, said Knock. Can't get his mind right. Good with his hands, but you have to tell him everything twice. Maybe I'll shout then, said Vimes. Vimes! Lance Constable Vimes shivered to attention. We're going to take a stroll, lad, said Vimes. Time you knew what's what. He nodded to Knock, took his younger self by the shoulder and marched out. What do you think, Sarge? Said Coates, coming up behind Knock as the sergeant glared at the departing back. He likes you, said Knock bitterly. Oh, yes. Apple of his eye, you are. You're his old pal. You're being bumped up to Lance Corporal. Think he'll last? I'll give him a couple of weeks, said Knock. I've seen him like that before. Big men in little towns coming here thinking they're the bee's nose. We soon cut him down to size. What do you think? Dunno, Sarge, said Coates. Still thinking. Nose is coppering, mind you, said Knock. Bit too cocky, though. He'll learn. He'll learn. There's ways. We'll show him. Take him down a peg. Teach him how we do things around here.
More. More.
That was a very good spot to pause for a Friday.
Or.
Join me. Join me.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
I just really fucking love this book.
Yeah.
It's really fucking good.
It's so good. It's so fucking good. It's so good.
I really, really like hearing Vimes give someone a bollocking.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. You tell him. You tell him, Sam. Oh. What a man. What do you think, Ash? What do you think, Ash?
What do you think?
Yes. 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 It's true. See, Ash knows. Ash knows. Ash gets it.
Yeah, Ash makes...
Don't hand over prisoners without a signature. No. No, we don't. No, we don't.
Strong points, Ash. Very strong points.
Speaking
Well made, I think.
Oh, hello.
Very passionate. Oh, hello, Marty.
Yes. Cheers, everybody. Yay. Mm. Ooh.
Mm.
Ooh.
Ooh. Back.
Ooh.
Nice and heavy now.
You're looking very smart, Malcolm.
Oh, where's Malcolm? Where's Malcolm? Don't move, Malcolm. There he is. Oh, he looks so smart. It's either another excellent jumper or the same excellent jumper that I said was excellent the other night. Is it the
You have
second
two
one?
of the same jumpers.
Option 2.
Option 2. Okay, well, I stand by my previous statement. That's an excellent jumper.
Would agree.
Also, look, we're drinking. Aren't you happy?
Are you happy? Malcolm?
Are you happy now,
happy?
Malcolm?
What the
Water. Please stop shouting. You're so angry when you're drunk.
Are you happy now?
Had about a third of a shot, maybe a quarter.
It's been a long day.
You'll be hammered.
It's been a long day.
What is it? What are you drinking?
It's plum vodka from Kim and Tom.
Oh shit!
It's so tasty.
It's so tasty. It's got
delicious.
a kick like a goddamn mule.
It's very smooth.
I mean, it's Friday night. Should we just get off our tits on plum vodka?
Sure.
Wow, you're not shitting about. Do I need to down this?
Yes.
I feel like one of you should just grab the bottle and then bring it to the computer, and then we can just hang out and have a few drinks. I mean, you can keep your glasses. I didn't mean to drink it straight out of the bottle. Just then you don't have to get up every time you want another.
That is very sensible and wise.
Because if we had to get up every time, we would notice we were getting drunk.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas it's better to drink it all and then get up later and fall down.
That sounds like a great idea. I'm very much on board.
Great.
Is anyone else getting their drunk on tonight? Or are you all...
We were drinking last night. You missed some very quality after chats.
Oh, what did I miss on the after chat?
You missed Duncan's story of drunkenly, piratically boarding a Navy vessel.
Duncanly. Sorry. I'm gutted that I missed that story. That sounds like an incredible story. But I'm already kind of spinning how I'm imagining it in my mind. And that's also a fun, good time.
So
I
you'll
mean,
do
then
the
you can
movie
write
script
the
without actually
fanfic.
having heard the story.
Can write the fanfic. Yeah, I can. I'll add it into the fanfic. Oh, fanfic. We should add something to the fanfic. Remember the fanfic?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the fanfic? Wow.
I mean, you're not allowed to start editing the fanfic until you're at least halfway down the bottle.
Okay. You're on.
I mean, you now live in the same city with two partners, so it could definitely get interesting.
Oh my god! Fanfic?
Haven't we already accidentally written fanfic about this in an after chat without Frankie around at least once? Sorry, Frankie. It was really wholesome.
It was really wholesome. But I think the episode of the fanfic where Emma finds out that she's not actually married to Frankie would be a very good one.
What do you mean she's not actually married to Frankie?
She finds out about your secret men who you've been keeping in the attic and drugging with cinnamon buns.
My God.
This got dark.
That got really.
And also Zach and Muff.
Yeah.
Frankie's been like leaving the signs of Lady Blood Moon and one Jaguar in the cinnamon bun.
Cinnamon buns containing my special mixture.
Oh, God.
Living out your Zosie dreams.
Yeah! I love her so much. Oh yeah, it is still recording.
Yes, I think.
Catch up crew. Please discount everything you've just heard. These miscreants can't be trusted. You and me, catch up crew. Good night. I love you very much. Good night, catch up crew. Boop, 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 ba-doo, doo.